I'm bringing the horns back. The horns, baby. Mixed martial arts. Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go. What is up, my friends? Oh my gosh.
Boom.
What a night. What a night. You already know. Welcome to the UFC 273 post-fight show here on MMA Fighting. My name is Shaun Al-Shatti, and I am joined by the crew. Let's meet them. Out there in Jacksonville, he is the host of Heck of a Morning and several other shows. He is my man, Mike Heck. Also joining us, the Prince of Positivity, the King in the North himself, Alexander K. Lee, and the Lord of the Hot Take,
Duval.
Jed K. The undefeated E.K.C. Layden man in the boards from the producer's desk. And let us get rolling, fellas, because it's late. And we have a lot to get to, and I know my man Mike, they're kicking y'all out here soon, so we got to get to you first. I think at some point tonight for UFC 273, our old pal New York Rick said in our MMA Fighting Slack room that tonight's card was never meant to be a buffet. It was always meant to be a 3-course meal. And that rung true. I mean, those top 3 fights, I would say, absolutely lived up to the hype. At the top of the card, you had just a sublime performance by the champ, Alexander Volkanovski. He retains with what was pretty much a perfect performance against Chan Sung Jung. Aljamain Sterling also retains his title with an extremely close competitive decision over Petr Yan. He's going to have himself a hell of a time over the next few months thrown in everyone's faces, and he deserves it. But first, let us start where we started on the preview show. Because like it or not, UFC 273 was the Khamzat Chimaev show coming in, and good Lord, what a special fight we were all witness to tonight. One of the best of the year. Unbelievable display of heart from both Chimaev and Gilbert Burns. And ultimately, he did it. He came in there and he won. Mike, I throw it to you first. Khamzat Chimaev coming in tonight. Did that meet your expectations? Was that below your expectations? Did it exceed it? Where are you at with this?
So it's one of those things where, you know, we talked about this on the preview show and throughout the week. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when Khamzat would go in there and get a win. And as cool as that would have been, if we're thinking about the long-term future of a guy like Khamzat Chimaev and where he can go in this sport and in this division, yeah, it would have been cool for the short term, but in the long term, he needed this fight. He needed exactly what happened tonight. He needed a guy who's going to get in there and punch him in the face and make that man bleed his own blood, because it showed that Khamzat Chimaev is human. It showed he was human because he's been coming off as like this Terminator robot. And even when he walked up to the press conference, like it just seemed like he was a little more vulnerable. Like he was like, all right, like almost like a big weight was lifted off his shoulders that he went through an experience like that. And it sort of hardened him up for the potential run that he's about to be on, maybe fighting the Colby Covingtons of the world, fighting the Kamaru Usmans of the world. And it opens a lot of things up, because if you're Colby Covington right now and you watch that performance, yeah, you understand that Khamzat Chimaev is super tough, that he can get into the trenches, pull himself up by the bootstraps, and get on the other side with a win. But at the same token, Colby, who may not have been as interested in a guy that's just trucking people, might be like, well, you know what? If I fight this guy right now, I might have a chance to beat him. So it really, compared to where we were heading into this fight, Khamzat has a lot more options that he had heading in, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's actually a really good thing. So I think the intrigue levels about this man have actually grown despite him not running through Gilbert Burns like a lot of people thought he did. But unbelievable fight. I was in the back. We were all on the edge of our seats. We all had goosebumps. We were going crazy for every single punch and kick thrown. And, I mean, my hat goes off. I was where I went to both gentlemen. Congratulations to Khamzat Chimaev. And Gilbert Burns, keep that head up, son. An amazing fight.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, you give me the perspective of being out there in Jacksonville. How this whole week, I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit. It did feel like this was the big fight of the week, even with the 2 title fights. On fight night in that arena, what was sort of the vibe around Khamzat Chimaev, Gilbert Burns? What was the vibe afterwards? Just set the scene for us.
So we're in the back, and the way this arena is structured, like you could kind of see above me, it's almost like stairs are going up. Like it's crazy. When that fight was going on, it was literally felt like an earthquake in here. The place was shaking. That's how into the fight people were. I could hear anytime the crowd made any noise, I could hear it. But when that fight was going on, it was like the whole room shook. That was the perspective I had. These people were all in on it. Gilbert Burns, Khamzat Chimaev, these guys got after it. The fans appreciated it. And it's always great when something is hyped up so much. It's built up so much. not only does it deliver to the expectations people had, this one delivered 20 times bigger than that. And this is going to go down as one of the all-time great fights. This is going to be a fight that maybe 5-6 years from now, much like Cub Swanson and Doo Ho Choi got the rub tonight, this could be a fight that ends up in the UFC Hall of Fame 5 or 6 years from now. So I think the people who are here to see it live witnessed something special, and they certainly felt like they did because the room back here was shaking what we were watching in the media room.
Well, Mike, I want to just stick with you here for a second because, again, we're losing you in a second. Seems like Colby Covington's next. I mean, we heard this earlier. We heard this, coming into the fight that Colby was the fight they were sort of looking at next for Khamzat, especially now that with the way this plays out, it feels like we can slow things down a bit. As you said, there's no rush anymore now to rush him into the title shot, and I think that's actually a good thing. Is the Colby fight for you, is that the way we go with this?
At first, I was like, I mean, it's cool, but I also thought like all roads were going to lead to Khamzat getting either an interim title fight or getting an actual title fight. And it seems like all signs are pointing to Usman versus Leon Edwards sometime this summer, and when and where, TBD. But right now, after that fight and after that performance, I'm literally I don't know if I could be more fascinated about any other fight for Khamzat Chimaev right now, because I don't want him fighting Kamaru Usman right now, because I feel like as great as Khamzat was and as great as that fight was, you have to think that Kamaru Usman watched it and his confidence grew. So I think Colby's the right fight, and I think Colby presents some really interesting challenges to Khamzat Chimaev. As good as this guy is, as terrifying as this guy is, especially in a 5-round fight, we talk about betting lines and stuff like that. I would say like it would be like a -350 Khamzat heading into tonight. I would say right now Khamzat's still the favorite, but it might be like -180, like -170. Maybe it's like even closer than that. I think it's super interesting, especially when we get to rounds 3, 4, and 5, if Colby can survive the devastation like Gilbert Burns did. But I'm super fascinated. Welterweight just got a big boost, and not just in the championship picture, but right below it too. Colby Khamzat is huge, and this is an opportunity to even get Colby back into a trilogy fight with Kamaru Usman. So the stakes are super high for this fight, and they do it on ABC. What a giant platform to have it.
Well, quickly, man, I want to get your perspective just on the rest of the night. Obviously, we had 2 other title fights. Big moves from Aljamain Sterling and Alexander Volkanovski both. Who was your standout from the 2 title fights? What was your big takeaway?
I mean, it's got to be good for Aljamain Sterling. Feel good moment. Come through and win the title and shut up everybody. I mean, that's going to be a tremendous feeling for that guy, but it's got to be Alexander Volkanovski. The guy went out and was like David Wells, just chucking pitches right down the middle. Perfect game. Just was fantastic. I mean, he has looked so tremendous in his last several fights. That Brian Ortega fight, outside of that 3rd round, I mean, he put a beating on that man, and I thought that was going to be one of those performances that was going to age so well that we'd always go back to that one. This was incredible. Nobody does what he did to the Korean Zombie tonight. That fight could have been stopped easily at the end of the 3rd round. He comes out in the 4th, and Volk just looked like he was going to go out there and make a statement, and he knew he was going to make it. Whatever Korean Zombie and his team had planned, it was like Alexander Volkanovski had a spy in the room and knew everything he was going to do. I was so impressed by this guy, to the point where he might very well be the best fighter on the planet, pound for pound. He might have jumped Kamaru Usman with this performance because he was that good and he was that perfect. I mean, this is an A+. This guy went out and had an A+ performance tonight over a legend and just a tremendous fighter, guy that everybody respects. He might be the number 1 guy in the world. I don't know if he'll be my. There's a chance I will be having an internal discussion with myself whether or not Alexander Volkanovski is the number 1 pound for pound fighter in the world. It's going to be a very tough discussion, but I will say this: I have number 4 in my pound for pound rankings right now. He will not be number 4 next month. He will be 3, 2, or 1 for certain.
Wow. Look at that. It's a hell of a night for the champ, for both champs, actually. Aljamain retains as well. Mike, you guys killed it. You and Jose both all week out there in Jacksonville. You absolutely crushed this coverage. We appreciate you so much, man. Thanks for staying late with us. Thanks for giving us a few minutes. Safe travels back, my man.
I got one more thing to say. I know I know New York Rick had a great quote with the 3-course meal, and I get exactly where he's coming from. But sometimes when you have a 3-course meal, you get a little thirsty. That glass of water tastes delicious. The Diet Coke, maybe you're into a frosty beverage. I think we got a little bit of everything tonight. We got finally, Aleksei Oleinik, the 60-win graphic that Jose Young made like 14 years ago. We finally got to put it on social media. So congratulations to Aleksei. Congratulations to Jose to finally get to show the world that graphic. Also, congratulations to Mike Malott, because that was a ferocious knockout. He had an A+ post-fight interview, and then he had like an A++ post-fight scrum as well. He didn't get a bonus, but what he's trying to do, the more important thing about donating money and helping out his coach and his family and his coach's daughter, who's going through a really hard time right now. Now Dana White's going to match his win and show money to donate to that cause so that Mike Malott can keep his money. That guy deserved a bonus, and maybe this means more to him than that. So, yeah, we had some good fights. We got a lot of decisions, but in the end, this is going to be one of those cards we're going to be talking about at the end of the year. But thank you guys for all the support back here at MMA Fighting. Appreciate y'all, and Godspeed. We'll see you next week.
No, Mike, I'll see you. Mike, I'll see you.
Oh, I'll see you tomorrow, AK.
I'll see you in a few hours.
Like 4 hours.
Hold on. We have a live on to the next one coming up Sunday morning. I'll see you in a few hours, buddy.
It will not be live. Oh, it
won't be. Oh, thank God.
I don't know what's happening. Yeah, travel day, all that stuff. There will be an on to the next one on the podcast network, the greatest podcast network ever. Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Godspeed, my man.
Oh,
all right, fellas.
Live.
We have a lot to dig into, so let's do it. Jumping back to Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns, and then we will work through this card. Jed, I'm going to throw this to you, man. Same question I asked Mike at the start. Below expectations for you? Did this meet your expectations? Did it exceed them? Where did this land for you?
I mean, I think it's below expectations because the expectations were so sky high for me for what was going to happen. But that's not to say that he did poorly. I thought we learned a ton, and we learned a lot of really good things about Khamzat Chimaev. I think he did. I rarely agree with Dana White, but I think what he said in his post-fight presser about Khamzat's pretty spot on. You know, this guy still is very unproven or untested. He doesn't have that many professional fights, and against one of the top 5 welterweights in the entire world, he comes in and beats him with pretty limited experience up to this. Like, any way you cut it, that was a really good performance from him. He showed a ton of heart. Honestly, a more varied striking game than I thought, frankly, and just looked overall good. So it's definitely less than what I thought, because I thought he was just going to absolutely dump truck him, but I thought it was a great performance, so I can't take anything away from the man. And I'm just excited that everybody else is going to come with me. You guys are going to take the journey, put him at number 2 on your welterweight rankings, and I'm a visionary and a pioneer, and you guys are all just finally catching up.
Oh, this is gross. This is the victory lap that this man's going to take now is just gross. AK, I can't handle this. You step in here, AK. I mean, obviously, well, let me say, obviously, Khamzat Chimaev now is one of the best welterweights in the world, but he's also human, and we saw that now, and I think everyone can see that it's fine. It's fine that he's human. I'm already seeing sort of this weird narrative developing of like, oh, he was exposed, now he's overrated, this and that. It's like, this is a man who 4th UFC fight, 11th fight as a professional total, and he just came in here and beat the number 2 guy in the world in an incredibly stacked division, and it was one of the best fights that we will see in 2022. There's no way that this is a disappointment. Like, this was an incredible performance, however you slice it. For you, tonight's action, the way this all played out, does this make you more or less convinced that Khamzat Chimaev will hold UFC gold at some point?
Oh, more. Not like a lot more. It's not like I it would be closer to like steady, but I mean, I think my expectations for him were already pretty high. Because I was saying before the show that even a loss to Gilbert Burns, I don't think that necessarily derails him. And I think we would have learned a lot from that too. And I think I also saw some people saying that they thought Burns did win the fight. So in some people's minds, this was kind of an L, even though it's not official for Chimaev. But again, just judging the action itself, regardless of whether you think Chimaev clearly won a decision or if you got away with the decision, he showed you a lot. He showed you a lot of what you needed to see in a contender. Because you want to see resilience. I think resilience is a key. There are some fighters who just bulldoze their way to a title. I mean, Cody Garbrandt's probably an example. He had all those highlight reel knockouts, and then he puts on the greatest performance of his life against Dominic Cruz. It was just this 90-degree angle trajectory, and then of course burnt up pretty quickly after that. But most champions aren't like that. Most champions aren't like that. Our greatest champion, MMA's greatest champion, Georges St. Pierre, had a couple of hiccups before he finally became the Georges St. Pierre that we see and that we view as dominant. Khabib would be on the other side, of course, another guy who I would say was pretty one-sided with his performances. Though there was the Gleison Tebow fight, there was the that one moment, the Michael Johnson fight people always point to. So these moments of adversity are become part of a champion story. And one day, I never like to say when with these things, but one day, Khamzat Chimaev does become a UFC champion, we will look back on this Gilbert Burns fight as a positive, as a great part of his mythology, not as like, he got away with one there, and I didn't think it was at that moment. I started to have doubts. It's like, no, this happens. This happens to all great fighters, and again, the fact that he is still undefeated. We're talking about it like he was tested and like he lost, and no, man, the record is still unblemished. He's still clearly one of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. If there was any question of that, I mean, he's not just bulldozing through overmatched competition. He just put on one of the best fights of the year against me personally, my number 2 in my personal rankings, Gilbert Burns, and now he's going to take that spot. So, definitely slight bump upwards as far as my expectations for him, which were already sky high.
I mean, Jed, same thing to you, man, because I honestly come away from tonight so impressed by this guy, and I feel like some people aren't. So I wonder, you more or less convinced that he's a future champion now, tonight, than you were this morning?
I am less, but again, this is a major caveat. I think he's still going to win a UFC title. I was pretty convinced that he was going to win 2 UFC titles before tonight. I am a little less certain that he can go up and get the middleweight one. I think that's still in play. I'm not willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater because of one tough fight, but I think we saw some limitations. And so now, whereas there weren't any before, he was unbounded in my imagination. Now there are some real things that he can fix and can work on, but he's also 27. I know he's relatively young in fight years, but if he was 22 or 24, no questions at all, he's going to be a 2-division champion. At 27, knowing that he has some clear limitations, that he maybe didn't fight and he acknowledges, didn't fight the best fight for himself. He got drawn into a battle that he shouldn't have been drawn into. That raises questions, especially when his road to a title will go through Kamaru Usman, one of the greatest fighters of all time, and potential is Tecia, also one of the greatest fighters of all time. So I still think he's going to hold the belt at some point. I'm just less confident he holds 2, though I still think that's in play for him.
It did feel
3's
2. I mean,
probably out though.
Yes,
fair. I was almost ready to be like, I think he's going to be the first 3-division champion, and that one I'm straight out on 3 now. I don't think he's getting the 205.
Well, I think that's one of the things that tonight did, right? Is it grounded us more in reality with this, because this was getting really fanciful for a while because of just the historic nature of how this has sort of gone up until tonight. Like, we had never really seen anything like him until tonight. Now it just feels like a much more realistic person, athlete, fighter, like however you want to frame it. AK, I mean, the Colby fight, that feels like this has to be the way to go from now, right? Like that's the fight. I don't feel like there's this urge now to push him to Usman or anything like that. Like, it has to be Colby.
The only downside to the Colby Covington fight is that if Covington beats him, I shouldn't say it's a downside, because then you probably set up a third fight with Usman, but that's a fight that Usman is probably not interested in taking anytime soon. I know both their fights were really competitive. I'm one of those people who says, hey, anytime you can throw the 2 best, in any division in there, you should do it. But I do think fans are a little bit burnt out, because it's not just that they fought twice. It's that, like, the feud was pretty intense. Like, even in between their 2 fights, there was so much back and forth trash talk. I don't know if that's a fight you can sell a third time so soon. And if you beat Chimaev, I don't think they have any other direction to go. So that's my one caveat. I would pick Chimaev to beat Covington, but that's an assumption, not anything close to a guarantee. And I think if you're Dana White and the matchmakers, you have to consider that, because again, perfect world, Chimaev runs through Covington. You have this fresh challenge for Usman, and maybe and then Chimaev beats him, and then you have a fresh champion. It's great. You start this whole cycle all over again, and people getting teleshots. But that's that's a dangerous game to play. It is a bit of a dangerous game to play. So I do like it. Dana White did say that would likely be next. He said that in an interview. This is kind of a Dana said moment. You guys can take that with a grain of salt. I have to think what other options there could be. Like, I still want to see the Neil Magny fight, but it really just feels like he jumped over that by beating Burns. And if you're him, why even if, let's say, Neil Magny, let's say he takes care of Shavkat Rakhmonov and just destroys him, even if you're seeing that in your Chimaev, you're probably just still like, I don't really want the Neil Magny fight right now, somewhere down the road. So if you're him, you want the Colby fight. I mean, that's the way to go. If not an interim title fight with Leon Edwards, if not an instant title shot with Usman, that's your best probably non-title option here.
Yeah, I agree. Let us now move on and talk about the champion, the man, the best featherweight in the world. I've been silly with this for the rankings. I think at this point, I've come around.
Finally.
I've come around. Tonight was his night, and what a night it was. I mean, his first Alexander Volkanovski's first finish as UFC champion, and it was never really in doubt. I mean, in total control from pillar to post. It felt like he could do anything he wanted in there against Chan Sung Jung, Korean Zombie. Jed, what did you see tonight from the champ?
You saw what I've been saying to y'all forever. That dude's the best 145er on the planet. There's no bigger Jose Aldo mark than I am, and Jose Aldo is still the GOAT because of all he's accomplished. Well, Volk has a real chance to take the title because that dude's the best featherweight on the planet. And God love Max Holloway, but he ain't it. And he ain't going to ever beat that dude. Like, he's just never – they're going to have great fights, and they might fight 8 times. And in each of them, Volkanovski's just going to slightly beat him because he is so good at so many things and at putting all of those pieces together in a dominant and tremendous way. Maybe this is hyperbole. Maybe I'm just a little too caught up in the moment. That might actually just be the best performance I've ever seen a fighter put together in the cage. Like, from a pillar to post, consummate in, not a one-shot KO. He tuned up Korean Zombie for however 16 minutes or whatever it was before Herb Dean. Thank you, because Zombie's corner are assholes. Herb Dean, you did your job, but Volkanovski did his job better than anyone else in the world tonight.
I thank you for mentioning Herb Dean, because that was one of the best stoppages that I've seen from a referee.
Gets a lot of crap.
That's great.
For
Herb
a
gets
long time.
Perfect.
Like, Herb has taken it on the chin for quite a few number of years at this point. He's had some,
and deservedly so,
stoppages. Yeah. Like, that was a lot of that wasn't unfair. He's had some rough moments. Tonight was a brilliant moment. Like, that needs to be submitted instantly into every video, tutorial that they show these judges teaching up and coming referees, things like that. Like, that needs to be inserted into that immediately, because that was a boxing stoppage tonight, and it was merciful, and it saved Korean Zombie whatever kind of extended damage that he was about to take, and this was not going to turn around. And we need to see more stoppages like that, and I hope tonight sort of sets a trend for that. But AK, I mean, it does feel like, we mentioned it a bit on the preview show, but like, Alexander Volkanovski is really evolving into somebody very interesting in front of our eyes. He's come into his own. He's very comfortable. He's very confident in himself. And he's said, 1,000 different ways, he just doesn't care anymore about what everybody else is talking about. He's going to do him, and he's going to have fun doing it. And it feels like this was kind of the fight and the kind of win that he needed tonight. A finish. It was decisive. What do you see there?
Well, I mean, I loved the I don't care persona, because it was believable. We see fighters, we see athletes kind of say that sometimes, but you can tell they're putting it on. They're trying to convince themselves, like, as much as they're trying to convince us that I don't care. I don't care what the media says. I don't care what fans say. And sometimes it just doesn't come off. There's a good example, sure, Aljo. But with Volkanovski, you really believe it. You really believe he's at this point of his career where he's so comfortable in his own skin. He's so confident about his accomplishments. Again, I'm sure when the third Max Holloway fight gets booked, he's gonna deal with all this kind of talk again, like, oh, do you still feel like you're in Max's shadow, and do you feel like you need to beat Max to be considered the best, blah blah. And he'll deal with those conversations, when they come. But in this situation where he was entering as the headliner, John Anik says all the time about like 2 or 3 fights in the card, the man around whom the event was built. I mean, in this case, it might have been Chimaev, but right behind that would have been Volkanovski. He was the A side of the main event. He was against a replacement challenger, with all respect to their Korean Zombie. clearly Volkanovski, this was supposed to be a showcase fight for him, and it was. And he acted that way in post fight, but without seeming cocky too. It wasn't like an I don't care, as in I don't care because I don't like the media or I don't like the fans. It wasn't like that at all. It was like if you're with me, great, I'm with you. Let's ride together. Come with me on this journey. Let's have a good time. And if you're not with me, I don't need you. That's fine. He's like, I care about my friends. I care about my family, my team, and that's what's important. And all of us should try to be better people. There's kind of that broader message there. He's like, I'm always trying to be a better fighter, but not. He's like, not just in that, like in everything. I feel like we can be better. So, as the Prince of Positivity, I'll tell you, I could not have said it better myself. I was so thrilled to see Volkanovski ascension. Jed, I'm with you. You know me. I've had Volkanovski number one. I've with respect to Holloway, I've had him at the top, and it will be very exciting in the rankings when pretty sure I think everyone will have
wild ranking show.
That is. We have again a month to stew on that. I'll tell you, because it's gonna be a busy one. I have a feeling. I know it's like I said, it's a month away, but
I have to make very few adjustments.
Okay. Well, you're a hero, but we're gonna have.
Don't say that.
I think we're.
Don't say it.
Believe me, that was not
ego like that.
Come on. That was. We all know that was said very sarcastically. The after effect of this will be felt for the next month, so it'll still be fresh in our minds a month from now, and possibly even more than a month from now. Like there was some serious implications here. Let me just say, Shaheen, before we go to our next topic, I ran a poll. It's running right now. It's running right now. Very simple. Who was the biggest winner? And Aljo actually came out to an early lead. Aljo was at like 40% for the first few minutes there, but now it has leveled. Aljo 35, Khamzat 36. So I'm not sure what that says about how impressed people were with Aljo. How much, again, they were, I wish there's a better word, disappointed that Chimaev didn't run through Burns. Because I thought Chimaev would be like 50%. I thought just by default. But it's pretty close. 35, 36% fluctuating. They're kind of trading the number one spot. Volkanovski just a bit behind, 24%.
Well, let me just say candidly, as one of the ringleaders on the ranking show, let me just say that I am glad we're not doing the next ranking show this coming week, because I would probably have to take a couple on the chin, and I'm not ready to do that just quite yet. But that is neither here nor there. I have to say, man, watching the champ tonight, he is always brilliant. He is always just a joy to watch. But the decision making that this man makes in the octagon, and the number, the quick trigger just in his own mind, like the mental chess that he's playing in there, is just otherworldly. It is unbelievable to watch. And tonight, it felt like he had the script already of what Zombie was going to do every single second of the fight. Like, he knew from pillar to post exactly what that man was about to do to him, and he had the perfect counter at every single moment. It was beautiful. Like, it was just straight up beautiful to watch. Jed, when Mike was still in here, he said, I might have to put Alex as a top 2 pound for pound fighter in the game, maybe the best pound for pound fighter in the game. Maybe he has eclipsed Usman. Do we need to start talking about Alexander Volkanovski as a top 2 pound for pound fighter in MMA?
Depends on how you do pound for pound. I said this on either the pre-fight Q&A or something with Mike earlier this week. He will be number 4 for me, because I just do a straight point system, and Volkanovski is great, but he only has so many wins over currently relevant featherweights. His last 4 wins basically are currently relevant featherweights, and so he can't eclipse Usman and Adesanya and Ngannou just because of who they've fought and where they're ranked now. But if you're just going on skills, again, I feel like I've been saying this for well over a year since the first Max fight. He's arguably the most skilled fighter in MMA. Like, it's him and Usman and maybe Petr Yan, though Petr Yan took a big hit tonight. So for my money, it's him and Usman if you're just talking about composite skills. And so if that's the way you're approaching pound for pound, he should absolutely be in your top 2, because I don't think there's a good argument for anybody over those 2 gentlemen if those are your criteria.
Yeah, man, I'm going to have to give some serious thought to this pound for pound list. I'm glad we have a couple of weeks to digest it, because, man, tonight was just so impressive. But AK, last thing on this, and then we'll move on. What's next from here? Because, I mean, it does seem like Max Holloway feels like the next step, the obvious next step. That was supposed to be the fight already. This was a replacement tonight, the Zombie fight. Is Max next for you? And if so, did the way we saw this whole thing play out, did that change anything tonight? How you feel about that potential trilogy fight with Max?
Well, I do think that Volkanovski, for the first time in their rivalry, will be favored. I don't know if that would have been the case without this performance tonight. I think at most he might have been in like a minus 120. He would have been close to a pickup. I just think there's so much love for Max Holloway. I think the second fight was so close that I do think Holloway would have been favored. But this time off, there are these questions about, man, is there issues with his health? Is he just getting older? What is this mystery? Affliction, malady, injury, whatever it is that kept him out of the third fight. We don't know. And I do think all that uncertainty combined with the certainty that we saw from Volkanovski's title defense tonight will finally make him the favorite. So that is something that will definitely be different. For me, like I said, I've had Volkanovski as the number one fighter for a while. I'm so impressed by his skills. I thought he obviously clearly won the first fight with Holloway. I thought he did enough to win the second fight. It was very, very close. And the Ortega fight that was phenomenal, and of course tonight just complete dominance. So I don't know how much changes for me. I pound for pound, I'm definitely someone who already had him in the top 5, and kind of play off of Jed's answer. If you're going by the criteria of like strength of resume, even then he might climb up. I don't know if he's going to move in mine because I do have him behind the Usman and Ngannou Adesanya trifecta. But there's a chance. Like I said, Shaheen, it's a good thing we don't have to make these changes this week. I'm definitely going to have to think about it a bit as well. I don't predict that he will rise up, but it is certainly possible that he does so. And as for his next opponent, I like what he said at the post-fight press conference. He feels he's in a position to call his shots. Of course, he wants to stay busy, but he's not going to fight just anybody. So, he wants the Holloway fight next. But if that's not possible, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to fight an Arnold Allen. I don't know, a Josh Emmett, a Calvin Kattar, depending how some of these guys have upcoming fights. Yair Rodriguez is out there. He could be one big win away. There are options. And there are compelling fights for Alexander Volkanovski, many of which came up when they were looking for a replacement. So Chan Sung Jung, remember, wasn't even the number one choice. So he's got options, but Holloway should be next. And if not, I don't think people will complain if one of these other guys gets picked.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out because I think finally we do feel, or at least it does feel like there's a sentiment that, like you said, I don't know if that was, I think Jed, maybe you said, or Alec, AK, maybe it was you, that Volkanovski's definitely going to be favored going into this trilogy fight, probably for the first time in this whole series. It just feels like we finally have some degree of resolution on this, at least. I don't know. We'll see. Moving on. Let's move to the man who should spend the next few months telling everyone he can in the world to F off. Because after a year from hell, Aljamain Sterling goes in there and retains his belt against Petr Yan. It was a controversial scorecard, it seems, for some. Yeah, Dana White out here saying he thought the judges botched it. I thought it was the right call. I could have also seen a draw. Jed, I'll go to you first. How did you have this one scored?
Well, the MMA fighting official stance on this fight is that Aljamain Sterling won 48-46, which coincides with my stance on this fight because I was doing our live blog. If you want to call it a draw, I haven't rewatched the fight, obviously. I would accept a draw as Yan winning that first round, which is, I think, the swing round. Round 2 is very clearly a 10-8. If you do not think so, I think that you are just stone wrong. And so at worst, Aljamain Sterling got a draw there, but I thought Sterling won the first round, and I frankly thought he won the first round easily. Like I did not have a tough time making that pick. I was like, oh, Jan's, I mean, the commentators even were onto it. It's like, yeah, Jan's swinging really hard and not landing and coming forward, but Sterling keeps kicking him in the body a bunch. So Sterling's going to win, and the numbers back it up. He outlanded him by like 10 strikes. I know numbers aren't everything, but I thought he landed better. I thought he landed more. Thought he clearly won the first round, and he clearly won this fight. He faded down the stretch, and Yan made some great adjustments in the championship rounds. Full credit to the man. Hell of a fighter. But Sterling talked a lot of crap all week and put all the pressure on him and came out and showed out. Talk your trash, baby, because you earned it. Because if he'd have lost, he'd have had to go away forever. And now he can rub everyone's nose in it, and he damn well should.
If Aljo had come out here and lost, and especially if he gotten finished, knocked out, however it would have gone, he would have never heard the end of it. Like it would have it would have been the single thing that everyone remembered for the rest of his career.
His
It would have
career.
been absolutely brutal.
I said it on BTL. I was like, if he loses, he has to delete his social media because he just can't have it anymore. It will, and I'm dead serious. Like if he came out because everything he said this week just turned it up to 11. Like yeah, either I'm a dumbass and everyone's gonna talk trash to me for the rest of my life, or I'm gonna make everybody eat crow. And when you come out with that type of energy, you better back it up. And he did. Damn proud of him. Hell of a performance. I thought he clearly won, and good for that man.
AK, coming to you, I mean, how did you score it? And also, I mean, if you're Aljamain Sterling, how hard is it right now to just not go on a world tour telling everybody to F off?
Listen, I scored it the same way as Jed. I put out tweeted out my scorecard after. I got some pretty classic Twitter. This is the worst scorecard ever. How could you score the first round for Sterling? And again, the first round was close. If you want to go by the stats, which by the way do not tell the whole story. Aljamain Sterling 19 significant strikes to Petr Yan 13 significant strikes. But again, not every significant strike is created equal. I think people are giving Yan credit for as Jed said, he was throwing some power shots, right? And so you land 2 or 3 power shots can change the whole complexion of a round. Sterling, a lot of those significant strikes were kicks up, and which I think count, which should matter. But I understand if people would favor the Petr Yan sort of power shots more. So I totally get that. I did have it for Sterling. I don't think a Yan first round score is indefensible. Just to elaborate on the 10-8 thing, again, Jed and I both gave it 10-8 in the second round. Guys, that is pretty much the definition of a 10-8. He had dominance. He had the most dominant position you can get in an MMA fight. He had back control, Aljamain Sterling. And he had it for almost the entire round. So he had duration. He was going for submission attempts, which on their own are not worth that much, but it is effective grappling, which matters. And there was damage. There was some ground and pound in there. He landed some good shots.
There was nasty ground and pound in there.
Yeah, there was some
he
serious.
Got that belly down body lock. He was lighting hammers into the man.
I guess we wanted to see it for longer, but it's like, look, if you're saying round 1 was a clear Yan round because he landed like maybe 3 or 4 good punches, then you have to give Aljamain Sterling credit for the however many like heavy ground shots he landed in round 2. So for anyone who does not understand why round 2 was a 10-8, we're after dark here, so pardon my language, but read the fucking criteria. Fucking criteria. I'm sorry. If you don't, you don't know what a 10-8 is.
4 a.m. AK bringing the heat.
You don't know what a 10-8 is, and clearly, and I'm a little disappointed, frankly, that the judges didn't either, because I think they, in the end, they got to the right decision. I do think Sterling won. If you're gonna pick a winner, I do think Sterling won. Draw also would have been very acceptable. But guys, read the criteria. That's a 10-8. But it was a great fight. I'm sorry to call people out, and I'm sorry to have to be even a little bit negative, because I thought the fight was really enjoyable. I think both guys are clearly the 1 and 2. I think they are clearly the 1 and 2 bantamweights in the world. We are probably going to run it back someday, and I'm fine with that. I don't think it needs to be next. Bantamweight is so deep. I think you could go probably 2 fights in between, depending who Yan fights next, depending who Sterling fights next. Could happen sooner rather than later, but I'd like to see a bit of space. Another year. If it's another year between them fighting again, I think that's more than fair. But really enjoyable fight.
Jed, I want to go to you for this because I'm actually really interested in your thoughts here. You have been the driver, pretty much, of the Petr Yan bandwagon, train, whatever you want to call it, for a while now. Like, you have been number 1 on that bandwagon.
Of the Petr Yan?
Yeah, it just in general, and like a couple of weeks ago, I hope I'm not betraying your trust here, but you even said, like the more I look into this fight, like I just don't see really ways that Aljo's going to win this fight. Were you surprised with how all of this played out?
I was super surprised because this is the way Aljo could win the fight, and I just didn't think he had it in him. Like, I talked about it on BTL this week with Mike. The way Aljo had 2 paths to victory. He could try and go full Corey Sandhagen and just empty the tank in round 1, and it's an all or nothing. It's an all-in bet, and it probably wouldn't work, but that seemed a thing that he at least knows how to do. But the other way, it's not like Aljamain Sterling is deficient in tools or ability. He is an incredibly skilled fighter, but his issues, especially in that first fight, are largely mental. Like, he is still not a very comfortable striker. He's not a bad striker, but you can see the wheels turning when he is forced to engage on the feet, and it is always about being safe and then about activity. Like, oh, I need to do stuff because nothing's happening, so I'm going to jump with a big knee. And it's great. And in that first fight, he won the first round by just throwing everything, but he also gassed himself out entirely. And that's it's a really bad thing to do against a guy like Petr Yan, who gets stronger as the fight goes on. So the way for him to win was to not do that, to pick his spots, to get some takedowns and work the grappling, and to just use his range because he's longer than Petr Yan. And he did all of those things. It was incredible. He fought really, really smartly and perfectly and absolutely deserves the win. And I just didn't think he could at all do it. I thought he so mad about everything that happened. He was going to come in and kind of like Petr Yan did, try to put hands on him early, blow his gas tank, and then be screwed in the later rounds. And he didn't. So I'm shocked that he could do it. But if he was going to do it, this was always the way I thought he could do it. So hats off to him and Ray Longo and that whole team. They were perfect.
Dillashaw seems to be next. I mean, he got the call out from Aljo post-fight. He seems very into it. Kind of just makes a lot of sense with the way this division's formed right now. Do you guys like that as the next one?
It's fine because it's the right thing to do because Dillashaw never lost his belt in the cage. And so you should close that book.
How did he lose the belt, though? I'm trying to remember. How did he lose
I can't recall.
By
doing things that everybody does all the time.
There?
So
Oh,
whatever.
come on.
Okay.
But you know, Shaun, you and me, we know what should happen. It's our man. It's Jose freaking Aldo. Put that man against Sterling. Because I think Aldo beats him.
Sell it.
I think Aldo beats Aljamain Sterling, and that man gets a second belt. If there was any decency in the world, that is what would happen next. But instead, we're going to let TJ Dillashaw probably lose.
Oh my God, tears! I would if Jose could get that shot and win that, I'd be sitting there crying. I'm not going to lie.
I think he can
amazing.
win it,
That'd be amazing.
I think he can win it. It would be the best.
AK, what do you think?
I mean, Dillashaw makes the most sense. I don't like it because he's such an odd case because obviously I have a huge problem with him. You know, this is someone who we know cheated. He admitted it. And then just traipsing back into a title. Now he did fight Corey Sandhagen, a fight that I know some people don't think he won. I was kind of okay with the score, but very close fight. A lot of people called it a robbery, and I don't know if I blame them. I have not watched the fight again since. That's probably a robbery review waiting to happen, unless I already did it. Anyway, but either way, I did do one. You know what? MFine.com.
It's 4 a.m. It's 4 a.m.
Robbery review. Okay. Robbery review. I've written so many of these now. I don't remember. But I actually think I said not a robbery. So I have to stand by that. But it was a really close fight, and I understand the Corey Sandhagen support. But either way, technically Dillashaw won that fight. Big fight. So that's he came back. He got a win over a top 5 contender. He is a 2-time champion. So he's got the long-term resume as well. He's a name. He's not like a Conor McGregor level name, but he certainly is one of the marquee stars of the division. That's why Aljamain Sterling would want to fight him. So Dana White would want to make that fight happen. ESPN, they'd be thrilled. They'd kind of sell it as this weird like redemption story, which is also I think what they did on like Fight Pass. There's like a TJ Dillashaw documentary, which I have not watched, I'll be honest, but I know that the trailers were like, TJ, coming back from having his title taken away from him, and I'm just kind of like,
really overcoming adversity. That guy.
We really need context for this, guys. We really need context. So I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's fair. Again, bantamweight has so many good fighters. I love the Jose Aldo idea. I just don't think he would get it over TJ Dillashaw and everyone else. Again, as great as this division is, they're really all one fight away. Except for Merab, and obviously him and Aljo are not in any rush to fight each other, so that removes him from the equation. So we're close. We're close to getting someone else, but right now there just is no really great reason not to book Dillashaw and Sterling.
Man, Jed, you really opened something in me with this Jose Aldo idea. Like I can we put together a GoFundMe to make this happen? Like I will throw in money right now, whatever it takes. Can we just please get this going, get this movement going? Because it needs. He could win that. He could win that fight. Like that's a good matchup for him.
Win that fight.
That's a great matchup for him.
It's one of the better ones for him in the division. Like at the tippity top. So it's. Also, I just want to say this because I think it needs to be said about TJ Dillashaw. So we're clear, he lost his title because he took PEDs. He also never once failed the drug test while he was at bantamweight. He failed the drug test for his drop to flyweight. He came out, admitted it, and said, I did it because I was cutting to this weight class, yada, yada, yada. the simplest explanation is usually correct, and the simplest explanation here is that he was clean for his whole bantamweight run, and so you should just take that into account as he was the best bantamweight in the world when he lost his belt, and he is still not lost officially, though the Corey Sandhagen fight was close. So that is the fight you should do, but Jose Aldo makes me happy.
I totally agree with you. Well, we still have a lot to get to on this card. I mean, let's throw it to the peeps, though. It's getting late. We've been going for a while. Casey, I need you to get in here. What's going on with the peeps? What's going on? What are people thinking?
They're angry, aren't they? Have you been looking at these comments? They're pretty upset, like just in general. But I don't know.
We got a bunch of casuals talking here. Yeah.
Oh, I mean that's obvious. That's fair. Yeah, that's more than fair.
Yeah. All right. You want to talk about the non-top 3 fights or just whatever?
Yeah, let's hit some new stuff. And also anyone who's hanging with us at 4 a.m. Respect to y'all. You are not a casual.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about this.
Also, there's a very weird blue versus black thing going on with the shirts in the order of the panel right here. Like, it's making me uncomfortable.
Are you wearing a fighting shirt?
24.
We really need to
Shaheen,
switch AK and Jed.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch.
Shaheen, are you rocking that made fighting?
Yeah. There we go.
Double Jed, baby.
There we go.
Shaheen, are you wearing one of these?
You know it.
Okay.
Nice.
All right, this one's coming from Joseph Boza, who says, in what universe did this is aggressive already?
Yeah.
In what universe did Mackenzie Dern beat Tecia Torres? I'm sorry, that was the perfect example of Mackenzie needing the fans to help her beat Tecia. Tecia took 1-3 in his honest opinion.
1-3.
I'm guessing by needing the fans.
Yeah.
I guess by needing the fans, he means like maybe the fans were swelling with crowd like ovations and such.
I know what he means. I know what he means. Yeah.
By like influence swaying the judges.
Yeah. I think so. There was so much action going on tonight. So I think it was round 1 was the swing round.
Yeah.
And I was pretty, like, as soon as the fight was over, I was like, cool, Tecia Torres won. Moving on. And I was like, what? So how did you guys score the fight? Do you remember? There was so much action tonight.
Jed, go ahead.
MMA Fighting's official position is that Tecia Torres won rounds 1 and 3. I think that that's probably true. I also don't have a huge issue with Dern winning the first. I think Torres won it, but she didn't land. I thought Dern landed with more power when she did land, and she wasn't outstruck by that much. So I can see the argument. I just think it's probably not correct.
Yeah, that's the problem with Ticia's. Problem is a terrible phrase. It's
a problem. That's why she keeps losing.
Well, when it comes to judging, because judges are, again, I keep going to the criteria here. Judges are supposed to reward immediate impact more. I believe that's the language in the criteria. Immediate impact, strikes that are more likely to lead to a finish or more obviously damaging. Casey, you mentioned all the time, damage is subjective, right? So it's hard to tell. We might not see Ticia's shots as being particularly hurtful, but we don't know. We're not the ones getting hit by them. But for the judges, they are going to lean towards the more dramatic moments. I think Dern had a big moment like at the end of the first round, right, where she really kind of caught her.
It was one big overhand where Tecia.
Right hand
and it sounds crappy, but that one like strike and however Torres reacted to it, that might have swayed that round.
It was the most meaningful strike of the round. Like, it wasn't like Tecia was landing, anything significant.
I thought Tecia controlled that round for the most part, but that's one of those things when you're the fan favorite, which I'm pretty confident Mackenzie was. Even shots that are blocked, if the judge is at the wrong angle, to the judge, if they hear the crowd roar, they assume it lands. So when you're a fan favorite, close rounds, and I'll go ahead and say it's a close round. I can see why the judges gave it to Dern, but
and for record, for Joseph Boza who asked the question, Mackenzie also had the best sequence of the fight with her sick friggin' in the cage to go for a body lock, scissors, Kimura. So I mean, if we're going by like who had the coolest best moment, and then
Pride Rules
that universe, this is like
in Pride Rules.
When Jessica
Pride Rules, Mackenzie wins that fight.
Yeah,
in Pride Rules, Dern wins that fight. Yeah. But also, like I've said it for a while now with Mackenzie, and like she's an Arizona person. I saw her growing up, or coming up in the game. Like I followed her pretty closely. Like I was at some of her fights before the UFC. she has always just needed to be able to perfect like the one go-to against the cage, clinch takedown or something, just like something to get this fight to the ground, because that is just the biggest gaping hole in her game right now. Is like
doesn't have any.
Her inability to drag the fight to the ground is consistently stifling her in these type of fights, because you saw once she got it there, like that second round, watching her like grapple with anybody and just the jaws of death that she puts these women through. It's unreal. Like, it's harrowing to watch this stuff. That second round was unbelievable theater to watch. And it's just, I want more of that.
Rogan ended that fight like 5 times. That fight ended 5 times.
That's it. Like, if she can just get that one Damian Maia takedown that he perfected and was able to do really well for pretty much the entirety of his career, like, that's it, man. That unlocks so much for her, because as soon as she gets it there, no one in this division can stand with that. Like, no one can even come close to hanging with it. And it's so much fun to watch, like the different transitions and sweeps and just escapes and submissions she was going for. Like, it's just, again, jaws of death style. Like, it's so crazy, her compared to everybody else in this division.
Is it a weird comparison? But I really think Mackenzie Dern is a better version of Ronda Rousey, but in a much better division.
I see where you're coming from. I don't know if I agree, but I kind of like understand.
Well, I mean, like a simple striker can't throw really heavy. Ronda could throw heavy, just wasn't a good striker. But if it lands, it hurts. Dern can throw really heavy, not necessarily a great striker. Neither of them are good wrestlers. But if they do take you down, it's trouble.
But Ronda was really good at getting people down.
Ronda actually,
she has the judo.
Ronda couldn't wrestle. Ronda couldn't wrestle.
Yeah. But she could get.
And that's why she lost when people figured out. Oh, when they figured out how to fucking. Oh, sorry. Some cursing now, like AK. Jeez.
My fault. I took the lid off.
I'm gonna have to notch the language thing when I file this on YouTube.
When everyone figured out how to stop her judo throws, kind of it stopped her game. And if you can basically keep Dern in a stand-up fight, you should win the fight. That's why but the division's so much. Strawweight's such a better division than bantamweight.
I think you're onto something, but I think Dern is not the same. Dern has no takedowns, like none. She got body locks and clinches, and then her takedown
basically jump guard,
like
guard. She jumped guard.
She
like, it works.
She doesn't like doing it. She's like, I don't like doing that, but I wasn't succeeding anywhere else, so I did it.
I like that she was just kind of like, if I can't take this fight to the mat, I'm essentially going to take the mat to you. I'm going to just use the cage as my mat and use your body and just fight in the air.
Which was super cool. Like, it was extremely cool to watch. Like, she's pushing, she's using her feet to like push off the cage and try to create the momentum to like get him spilling to the floor. Like, all of that was so fascinating to watch. I need more of that in her fights.
All right.
I just need a double leg from her.
She had a moment against Marina Rodriguez too.
But that's why I was talking about Ronda. Ronda had no double. Ronda had no wrestling. She had no shot.
Just shoot a double. It's not that hard.
All right.
It hurts
What else?
It hurts the knees. Let's talk about the other lady fight on the card. Well, there were 2, but let's talk about the more important one.
The other one.
Stoned Zebra 666 coming in here. What's next for Raquel Pennington? I don't know. I mean, she had a really nice win tonight over Aspen Ladd. What do you guys think?
Didn't she call for Kat Zingano? Or not
Kat
Zingano?
Sarah McMahon.
Zingano's in Bellator.
Yeah.
That seems like a fine fight.
Another former bantamweight title challenger. Yeah.
Also,
I like the McMahon fight.
The only mistake she made was just going like Sarah by one name.
Yeah.
Sarah, I have a lot of respect for Sarah McMahon. She's not quite on that level that you can drop a Sarah. Part of me was almost like Sarah Kaufman. Like, what did Sarah Kaufman do to warrant this call out on pay-per-view? Did she hurt? I mean, I'd love to see that fight. I was surprised that she would. No, and I was like, okay, wait, Sarah McMahon recently won a fight. She's okay. They're in the same kind of ranking. That's fine.
Also Raquel, Raquel low-key throwing like 100 miles an hour in her post-fight scrum, calling the corner of Aspen Ladd a comedy show.
What was that about?
I'm just sitting here listening to the comedy show. I don't know. She had several examples of things they were saying, and she was just like, "What? Like, none of that made any sense."
I think Raquel and Tecia are kind of in a weird way, almost the same. We said this on the Q&A. Like, Raquel's like the highest level gatekeeper, and I think Tecia Torres is kind of almost the same thing in the strawweight division.
100%.
I know it sounds negative, but
It's not negative, though.
Yeah, two fighters I think are never going to win the belt, but you have to beat them if you want to fight for the belt.
They're elite. They're the gatekeepers to the elite, which to be that, you have to be elite. Like that, I understand how it could be a slight, but it's not meant to be a slight.
Yeah. Look, Raquel's fought for the title. Tecia is 1-1 with Rose Namajunas. I'd still love to see a third fight someday, but obviously this result tonight's going to hurt the chances of that happening. So yeah, that's weird. They are gatekeepers, but they're also gatekeepers with just really strong credentials. So yeah, but I do agree. There is some comparison there as far as their standings in their respective divisions.
So
Pennington's better, just so we're clear.
Oh boy, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
What's next for Aspen Ladd? I don't know. What do you guys think? She's in a tough spot at this point.
Can I ask you guys, are you going to rank her?
Nope.
At 135?
No.
Nope.
Because I had her. I mean, Yana Kunitskaya is ranked. That's her last win, I think. It was it was over 2 years ago now. So I was just doing some preliminary. I actually was doing some preliminary rankings.
I might rank her,
and I did drop Ladd down.
It's such a thin division.
I might rank
maybe
her
at the bottom of the top 15, but
not in our top. Well, not in our top 10s, right? Yeah, it's unfortunate. Her struggles with weight pretty much just removed her from the equation for the last 2 years. She takes a very unnecessary fight with Nora Dumont. I know she just wanted to get back in there, 145, and then loses that.
It didn't just lose it. It was just a bad fight.
Was supposed to fight Elena Aldana, loses that fight. That fight might have gone even worse for her, if we're being honest. I mean, she might have gotten hurt even more. I'm sure this fight wasn't fun either. But and then loses the fight to Raquel Pennington, where it just doesn't feel like we were seeing the logical evolution of this fighter when she was 23, 24. How old is she now? She's 27, right?
Yeah, she should be hitting her prime right now, but she seems 27. To be regressing as a fighter.
It was really.
I don't even think it seems. I think it's clear she's regressing.
Boy, I mean, it's look, this Casey, you fought. This is an easier said than done thing. Where it's I'm sure all of us are watching. Man, why isn't Ladd just going to try and take her down? Ladd's ground and pound used to be. That was how she won a lot.
That
of
was her thing.
So Raquel, great grappler, great takedown defense. So again, it's easy for me sitting on my couch eating with chip grease on my fingers, saying, "Oh, just shoot in, just take her down." But it was a bit shocking. It was a bit shocking as the fight progressed. And then in the third round, she did kind of go to her grappling a bit, and we're like, "Oh, well, it's there. It's clearly there." And yeah, I don't know what's going on with her corner. Like Raquel said, they're giving her some sort of information that she didn't think was helpful and was not an accurate assessment of the fight. One of the things that Raquel said that they said was that Raquel was breaking. I did not see that at all. I don't know if I thought that would help Aspen Ladd's confidence. I can't imagine why it would. This is a case where this is the first time I'm ever gonna say this, and only for Aspen Ladd's sake. Open scoring would have helped her a lot, I think.
Maybe she needs that fire. Maybe if she looked up and oh, I'm down 2 rounds. My corner is lying to me. You're right.
My corner is so wrong. Yeah. And again, even if it did, it'd be nice for her to know.
That would have helped her. The one time she did something good was in the third round anyway.
I just want to see her reaction because she was surprised at the end of the fight. She was surprised at the end of the fight when read it. She was like, "Oh, I can't believe it," and we were like, "Yeah, I mean, your surprise is somewhat understandable, but it's also because your corner."
I mean, there were a couple media members that gave her the first round, but I think I threw this on Twitter. Unless that's a clear I'm using a half point, but a clear 10, 8.5 round, you have to, as a corner, you have to assume that your corner, you lost that round. You can't, if it's, there was no way that the first round was clearly Ladd's, that's all. And so I hate throwing this out there because it sounds so cheesy, but she needs to change camps.
Yeah,
that's all.
That's the answer that we're all beating around the bush.
Yeah, she just needs, I mean, and I'm not going to get into Ladd's personal relationship with her coach and stuff, but she's still really good talent, but something's wrong.
For very obvious reasons, you should not date your coaches or have relationships with people in the business sense. That extends beyond fighting, and many companies specifically don't want you to do that. And especially in sports, that creates this situation. She super needs to leave, and she's not going to, and so she's never going to be what she could have been. I think it's that simple.
Right. Well, let's keep it going. What else we got? Also, AK, why are you like working with chip grease on your hands? Wash your hands, dude. You're on your computer. Like, what are you doing? That's really gross.
It makes my fingers glide over the keys faster. That's a little tip for you.
That's super gross. Wash your hands.
Life hack.
This one's coming from our pal David Sandine. Are we watching Volk in the middle of a legendary career? Seems like he's on that path. I mean, it's kind of starting to feel like that, right, guys? Like, I think I saw some stat tonight that he has started his UFC career now 11-0, and that the only other people who have done that are essentially like in the all-time GOAT conversation of like Khabib, Anderson, Kamaru, and I think that's maybe the list. Like, maybe I'm missing one.
That is the
like,
list.
Yeah, it is.
That's incredible, man. Like, that's incredible. And also, if you look at the standard of competition, like if you'd have to go back to really like 2018 to find anybody that isn't up to that level of competition. Because at that point, it's Elkins, Mendez, Aldo, Holloway, Ortega, Zombie. Like, that's impressive, bro. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah, I didn't realize Volk's only loss was at welterweight. I
was about to say.
Yeah, I interviewed that guy.
If he didn't lose at welterweight, think about what we would view his career at right now.
And you should look at the clip of that. He's like twice. That guy is literally like twice Volkanovski.
That man's enormous because Volkanovski is not a welterweight.
Yeah.
I mean, at that point, he's 24-0. Like, he's doing all of this. Like,
it's very weird and stupid that that's how this sport is. But that one loss, like, fundamentally changed Alexander Volkanovski, like how he is viewed. Because like he would straight up be Khabib right now. Like, he would be the exact same of where Khabib was when he won the title. This dude's 24-0. He's starting to finish people. He might be the greatest fighter of all time. And because he lost a fight at welterweight half a decade ago, he's not getting that same love, and it's kind of insane.
You know what?
I don't want to. Oh, go for it, Casey.
I think it's going to really help Volkanovski in terms of getting that kind of status amongst fans and media. Is it actually his press conference today, where he kind of just said, I don't care what people think anymore. Mm-hmm. And I think, because that's been the issue with Volkanovski, not his in-cage performance, but to me, like, just how we see him as, like, we want to see these guys as, like, kind of, gods and stuff. And Volk just seems like a dude who just
seems like an everyman, which is cool. Like, he has a great
which is cool, but Chimaev doesn't seem like everyman. Adesanya doesn't seem like an everyman. Aldo isn't an everyman. There's something, I don't know, something that Volk doesn't have, but I think it's coming. And I think today's performance, and even how he was talking at the press conference, coming to the press conference with his own music, just not giving a, I know it's late, guys, but not giving a fuck. And I think that's what Volk needs.
Third time. What are we
doing?
I
know. We cannot monetize this. We have to click no. This is not suitable for kids.
No, but I mean, we've said it a couple times. Like, it feels like a switch is sort of flipped within him. That he's carrying himself a little differently now. I love it. I think it's really cool to see sort of this evolution of him. And man, like, I don't want to do a GOAT conversation because I kind of hate GOAT conversations, and he's not there for me. I think I'm still an old head who's going to have Jose Aldo there for like a while. Like, you got to do a lot to get past Jose Aldo, but like, he looks like he might be that guy who could eventually get there. That's all I'll say.
Look at this run he's on. This is, this isn't his whole. Look at these last seven opponents. Darren Elkins, who at the time was on a 6-fight win streak and is currently now tied with Max Holloway for the most wins in UFC featherweight history. So a super tough out. That's the first win in this run. Chad Mendez, TKO win. Jose Aldo, clear-cut unanimous decision win over Jose Aldo. Back-to-back decision wins over Max Holloway. Brian Ortega in one of the greatest title fights we've ever seen, and one that he won very convincingly, by the way, outside of that one, him getting in danger and almost getting choked to death. Other than that, pretty clear win for him. And then a complete, just utter destruction of Chan Sung Jung, again, one of the most respected featherweights of all time. That's an all-time run right there. So, and we were not, like I said, he might fight Holloway again, and then we have all these other great up-and-coming featherweights. This could be, I still think GSP has like the greatest championship run of any fighter in MMA history. Volkanovski, if he stays the course and just sticks with 145s and doesn't mess around with jumping up the lightweight or doing all this other stuff, he could have a title run that compares to that. And I'm Canadian, so when I say that, guys, I'm being serious.
I want to see him jump up, because I really do now. Like,
I actually kind of don't, and that's what I guess I was.
I don't care about that. I don't care about that.
Last thing from me at least, is like, I actually really dig the mindset that he's sort of going through right now of just like, give me these contenders. Like, let's just do this. Like, this is very Anderson Silva-esque right now and GSP-esque of just like, I don't care who it is. Give them to me. I want to fight. I want to keep defending this title. I want to rack up these title defenses. That's really cool to me. Like that mindset of just like, hey, I know that 2-division champ and everyone wants to be 2-division everything. Just give them to me and let me rack up the numbers. Like, I love that. That's very old school.
Imagine if you add Arnold Allen, Bryce Mitchell someday. If God help us, Zabit Magomed Sharapov ever comes back. Imagine if he adds those 3 names to this run. Like, that would be insane. That's an all-time great. That's a top 5 championship run in MMA history. Like, that's insane.
I'm on the record. I'm on the record many times over saying that the hardest thing to do is defend your title, and that this would be the best thing. But you guys are forgetting 2 very small facts. One, I think Volkanovski would whip the shit out of Charles Oliveira or Justin Gaethje, and you know me, big Gaethje stan. I think he wins. I think he wins both of those fights. Gaethje maybe could be interesting just because of the pure power, but I think Volk probably tunes him up. And 2, Arnold Allen is coming, and I don't know if Volk wants that smoke from him because Arnold Allen is the future. Y'all need to get on board. Is
there a shirt? Is there a shirt that like would explain how I feel about Arnold Allen? Because
he's numero uno, and Volk's, he's been fighting a while. He's been fighting over 10 years. He's 34. You don't want that smoke from Arnold Allen because he is numero uno. So maybe go up, get a second belt. That's all I'm saying.
Are you Jesse in the comments? Because Jesse in the comments saying double champ is meaningless, but I would pick Volkanovski to beat Oliveira or Gaethje, which you just said. And then they also had I would pick him to beat Islam, for crying out loud. I don't think you're going that far, Jed. I don't think that's. I think you're drawing the line there, but
that's. I mean, that
Alexander Volkanovski would be so much smaller than so many lightweights. Like size matters at a certain degree. Like he is a much smaller man than a lot of
look at what Gilbert Burns did tonight. He gave up 30 pounds.
It was a great fight. And maybe if he'd been equal size, he would have won.
All right. How many? Let's do 1 or 2 more, and then we'll get out of here.
I
still got a lot left to work. Left to do.
A couple more comments. I just want this guy mentioned tonight.
Shavkat might beat Khamzat, says David.
Let's see how he does against Magny.
Maybe. Yeah.
He's not.
As much people were all about Khamzat, I'm all about Shavkat, and I'm super excited about seeing what's next for him.
I have Shavkat the highest ranked of any of us. I don't think he's beating Khamzat.
Ooh, all right.
We'll see soon enough.
Let's talk about the real star of the night.
Heist Viking says Oleinik should have retired with a question mark. Why? Let's keep this going.
He's got 10 more years.
Yeah, this old man could do this for another 5-10 years. Nobody trains scarf holds. Nobody trains Ezekiel chokes. Like, no one knows how to stop these.
And you shouldn't. And you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. You're not going to get better at them than him. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
Casey,
if he gets in that spot, dude, you're going to lose.
As soon as this fight happened, I immediately texted my coach and I was like, I want to work on that. Like, because I know the scarf hold, but like, I haven't really done it in a while. And like, that looks so painful.
It's a strongman move.
Yeah, it's a strongman move. Yeah,
strongman move.
And you were saying on Twitter, case like one, it hurts like your recollection of it anyway, that it hurts like hell, and that hurts like afterwards. You're saying like that's a hold that like after it's off, you're still like it's just ringing.
It's like just you broke your friggin' everything.
Yeah, it's one of those moves. Like it'll burn you out to put it on, but if you get stuck in it, even if you get out of it, you're still gonna go like, crap, I got to fight now. Like it's just
but that's not what Jared Vanderaa did, though. Jared Vanderaa vomited. He vomited, fantastic.
Yeah.
Then he sought Oleinik after backstage. I think everyone saw the clip, and he's like, "Hey, show me how you almost like broke my neck and like collarbone, bro. Like, show me how you did that." And sure enough, like Oleinik walks through it with him. They go pull some other guy over. Like, oh yeah, okay, here's it. So you can see how it looks like here, and I'll show you. It was amazing. It's an amazing clip. Win number 60. Yes, Jose finally getting to use a graphic that he made literally 2 years ago. This isn't even true. Over 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I've had it saved on my computer. We've had it in the cloud, and finally it was brought to life. 60 wins, 47 submissions. Was that right? His 47 submissions.
That's correct.
That's absurd.
Real quick on this, because let's end it with this because it is getting late. I was looking at a couple things because I'm writing my post-fight column, and I was like, what's the world look like? What does the world look like when Aleksei Oleinik makes his MMA debut, which is all the way in November 1996.
I wrote about this earlier.
Dude, November 1996. So here's what's going on, like right around the week. Right around the week where Aleksei Oleinik makes his professional mixed martial arts debut. Bill Clinton defeats Bob Dole to win his second term as U.S. president.
Bob Dole.
Hot new musical act, the Spice Girls debut with their, first album. It's all the rage.
Tell me what you want.
18-year-old Kobe Bryant becomes the youngest player to ever play in an NBA game. And I'm like, 7-year-old me is like conning kids to train me their Pokemon on the playground. Like, that's it. It's absurd, the fact that this man is still doing this 26 years later. And like, there are not going to be odes written and tributes written to guys like this, the unsung pioneers of this game, but respect, man. You're still going 26 years later. Like, that's crazy.
And wasn't there also like Kay Hansen and Ian Garry hadn't been born yet?
They haven't been born yet.
Yeah.
No chance.
Yes.
They had not been born when this guy was fighting.
It's unbelievable.
And I shed on the UFC how they hand out performance bonuses, but I'm very happy they gave Mr. Oleinik an extra $50K tonight for that.
Yeah,
they rarely give submissions, submissions.
And apparently took care of Mike Malott. Apparently took care of Mike Malott, the one finisher of the card who didn't get a bonus. But Dana White said he could keep your. Mike Malott said he was going to donate his money to his coach's daughter, who unfortunately has been diagnosed with cancer. Dana White said, "Don't worry about that. We'll pay for that." A lot of people were. Shaheen, you put the link out there of the GoFundMe. It blew past its goal. I think it was a $50,000 goal. Last time I checked, awesome. It was at like $75,000. And that was
it exploded.
It's probably
exploded
close
as soon
to
as
100K now, if not there. So a great story. Great to see the community come together like that. So that was one of the nice stories of the night. And I just want to say I will close the poll now, guys. Aljamain Sterling, biggest winner, 36%, just ahead of Chimaev, very close, 36-33. But I wouldn't have guessed. I wouldn't have guessed that going in that people would think that Aljo.
Way to go, fans!
They're back on. Or they don't want to get blasted. I don't know. Because you're right, Shaheen. He's going to have guns blazing on social media.
As he should.
I can't wait for him on the hour this week. It's going to be hot fire.
There's no one who deserves it more right now than that man.
Do your dance, son.
The music's on. The music's on. It's like 4:30 in the morning. It's that time. It's the end of the show. This has been the UFC 273 post-fight show here on MMA Fighting. My name is Shaun Al-Shatti. That man is Alexander K. Lee. That man is Jed Meshew. That man is Casey. He's the best producer in the business. He's undefeated. Also, Mike Heck out there in Jacksonville, killing it all week. Jose Young's out there in Jacksonville, killing it all week. We got on to the next one coming on Sunday. We got the MMA Hour coming on Monday. Fighter versus Writer Tuesday. MMA Hour coming again on Wednesday. All sorts of stuff coming. Keep it locked to MMA Fighting. You already know. Best in the business. We will see you later. Thanks for keeping with us. We love you guys. Stay safe out there.